got my notepad here again. Some very, very brief notes. I've got down here on the piece of paper, distribution over product. A couple of weeks ago, I read that first-time founders focus on product, second-time founders focus on distribution. And my work experience and background is not within this space at all. So I didn't really have a good understanding as to what it meant. But now that I'm back in China and I've just attended the Canton Fair today, phase 2, day 2, walking around and looking at different opportunities and things. I'm much better at understanding, as at least from my point of view, of this e-com world and how I'll potentially assist travel creators, ambitious and long-term travel creators, with their focus on distribution or their success in distribution, and with my focus on the product, the physical product. To expand on this a little bit more, it's interesting to think that, for example, in the e-com world, e-commerce businesses, which is quite popular in Australia, which is where I'm from, but also very popular in many other parts of the world, there's a huge emphasis on ads. And I'm not an ad guy, I'm not really even an e-com guy, but I've been surprised to hear and to read a lot about how much is spent of an e-com brand's budget on ads on digital platforms. So you could spend money on Amazon ads, Meta, Facebook, Instagram, etc. You could go TikTok, YouTube, optimizing your SOE strategy, your Google ads, Pinterest, Snapchat. I think there's a few other good platforms there. And sometimes some e-com businesses will spend 20, 30, 40% of their monthly revenue on ads. And why do they do that? Because they need to attract new customers or return existing customers to them. And I'm probably stepping into this a little bit inexperienced a little bit inexperienced, but certainly very naive in trying to understand all the complexity and the detail. And there are full-time jobs that are just focused on ads within e-commerce businesses and things. But it bewilders me that so much revenue, for example, if you have an e-com business that does $1 million a year, let's call it $1.2 million a year, and so monthly revenue on average is $100,000 a year, you're spending $30,000 or $40,000 a month on ads. Say $30,000 a month on ads, 30% of your monthly revenue just to recruit and retain new customers and retain existing customers for the following month or further down the line. And it's just really interesting that so much money and emphasis is placed on the ad rather than the physical product itself. Because then a business, if you've got 30% on ads, 30% on, you've got a lot of operational expenses as well. If you to have staff and things like that, you've obviously got COGS, cost of goods sold. You also then have logistics and postage and freight, getting the physical product either from a manufacturing hub to your home warehouse / your home region, then obviously into the customer's hands. There's a lot of expense involved, and so to have such a large proportion on ads, maybe there's a really good reason why there is. But the interesting thing is on distribution, right? Distribution over product. I went off on a little bit of a tangent there. Bringing it back to distribution. First-time founders focus on product. Second-time founders focus on distribution. First-time founders think about, how do I make this product the best in the world? Second-time founders focus on, how do I ensure that the product that I do produce, even if it is an MVP and minimum viable product, is able to attract a super engaged audience and have as many comms channels as possible as I go through and think about how do we put this in front of as many people as possible. And this is not just applicable to e-com businesses, but obviously in the tech world, I think this probably is more applicable to, I think this probably this saying or this line, right, probably originated more within the tech space, a SaaS world, which is digital products and SaaS products. Think about the distribution channels over the actual product itself. but I think it's applicable to anything, right? Even if you're selling yourself, right? So I think it's good to try and maximize or have a number of different distribution channels for what you're putting out there, rather than just relying on one specific avenue. Product, an online product, a physical product, a service, a physical service, an online service, an in-person, an offline. I think, distribution. So thinking through that, one of the interesting things that a lot of creators do is that they work with brands and companies to advertise the product of these companies and brands. And that's great and fine. They probably do it for multiple different reasons. I probably am not going to go down a rabbit hole of thinking on the spot right now and trying to articulate all the different reasons. But I've been thinking about distribution over product, or product over distribution. So I can bring the product. It's actually it's been super easy. Walking around Canton Fair today, products are everywhere. It's like right in front of you. All you need to do is find a buyer for it. And it's so funny, when I was traveling down the southeast coast of China over the past couple of weeks, I was in Shanghai for a night, and then I spent some time in Yiwu. I was down in Wenzhou, and then a couple of little places just south of Wenzhou, Pingyang, Longgang. Spent some time in Fuzhou, also Quanzhou, Shishi, and then Chaozhou. And I was asking a few people, well, look, I'm really convinced your product's great. It's awesome. I would buy it if I was a customer. How can I find buyers? How can I help you find buyers? And then they were joking. They would say, well, that's your problem. You've got to find the buyer. We've got you. We can sell it to you, and you need to go and find some people to sell it to. I'm thinking, yeah, okay, makes a lot of sense. They have this. They were also thinking about, how do we sell our products to the rest of the world as well. Some Chinese companies have their own brand, their own product, but very, very few. I'm getting the sense that it's a very minor percentage of Chinese factories in the manufacturing space will have their own brands. Some of them do, though. So that's why this works so well, because creators with moderate to large audiences don't have a physical product, and it's super easy to just set it up and set something up. So that's why this is so cool. I mean, creators bring the distribution channel, which is why brands, e-com brands, pay so much to work with them. But if these creators and UGC focused individuals and pages, UGC creators, if they had their own brand, why would they need to advertise somebody else's? Why make, admittedly, it's probably a fairly reasonable and fairly high percentage as a commission advertising somebody else's brand versus the effort and trouble that it might take to set up your own brand. The distribution is super important. So that's what I'm trying to think about first. I'm not focusing so much on the product. The product will always be there. The product will always come. But if I can tackle the distribution problem first, rather than the product. If I focus on the product full time, I'm not going to have any time to think about the distribution. How do I actually get the product out into the market? But focusing on I'm just writing down here on my notepad. And as I think through this, more or less in live time, I was chatting to someone today as well, and also was talking about this topic. And I think if you're not from this space and from this world, and I'm sort of just jumping into it now a little bit still fresh. So maybe a lot of what I'm talking about is totally well known. But yeah, I'm aiming more for the distribution, emphasizing distribution over product. First time founders focus on product, second time founders focus on distribution. I'm trying to skip being a first time founder and go straight into distribution. So that's where the emphasis is. I think for these videos, it's far too long to put up on Instagram like this. So I'm going to clip it. This is obviously just one live stream. One not live stream as in a live stream video. This is a one take, one cut. But I'll cut 1 minute out of this longer video. I'll put the longer video on YouTube. I'll put the shorter video on Instagram, on the Create Commerce Instagram handle. And I'll link into the YouTube channel via that Instagram handle via there. Okay, distribution of a product.